He is David Rockwell Saunders. He's a video production specialist. He has so many different things that he does in the world of media, esports, Pac-12 Network, the list goes on. And we're going to talk about his career and what he's working on the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley, a national anchor at Fox Sports Radio. David, welcome on. First of all, I love the festive backdrop. I have a little Christmas tree as well. Somewhere right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Hey,
there it is.
It's got to plug the lights in. But when I look at your career, David, I see somebody who is talented in so many different ways. Being someone who is so versatile, how is that helping you in your career?
It's funny, right? Because I think that a lot of times we're sort of, the phrase like jack of all trades, master of none gets thrown around a lot. Not just in production, but just in general overall. And I don't really see the validity to it. I just think that, in order to, and in kind of every sort of occupation, like if you're going to ask somebody to do something, you don't necessarily have to know like the in the weeds have done that role, but it helps. It really does. So, like you're right. I've done a lot, held a lot of different roles in a lot of different productions. Like one of the things I sort of picked up on when I'm a fan of yours and seeing some of the other onto somethings you have done is you put a nice little title down there at the bottom. And as soon as I got your email, I was like, I don't know what that text is going to be because I have no idea what I would even give myself as a title. But yeah, no, I think it's a huge positive to be able to have at least a cursory knowledge of a lot of different things, especially if they're things that you're going to be asking others to do.
What are some of the most humbling startup jobs that you've had when you were just breaking in?
So I got my start in the San Francisco Bay Area, like a lot of folks did in sports. Came up through working board shows. So, like as a technician for San Francisco Giants in-house video and the Golden State Warriors and Stanford Cardinal and everybody else. And I think that, those sorts of gigs you start to get, or at least I got into because I love sports and all I wanted to do was just figure out a way, like, how can I turn this passion into some kind of an occupation? And that was kind of like my avenue to do it. And, it's as humbling as, not only are you wrapping cable in the wet and the muck of Old Candlestick Park during a 49ers Sunday night game, but you're also running over to get hot dogs from the vendor for your camera guy in order to make sure that his blood sugar stays up for the rest of the broadcast. So like it covers the gamut for sure.
How do you, and you bring up moments like that in broadcasts, whether it's in-house, whether it's over the air, exciting, adrenaline inducing, but also stressful.
Yeah.
How do you manage the stress, the tension, but also the excitement and the exhilaration of being on and dealing with that?
I mean, I think to be really good to be comfortable, being uncomfortable, you have to be, fortunately, a little bit of a sadist. Like you have to be okay with, things going a million miles a minute and some of those things going off the rails. And it's just kind of like, how do you sort of pick up the pieces and kind of go from there? You have to be comfortable with things being imperfect because especially like in a live broadcast, it's never going to be perfect. So yeah, for me, I do get kind of like an adrenaline rush of on the fly, figuring out how am I keeping this thing going while things may not necessarily be going perfectly. So yeah, it's fun. It's a puzzle that you're constantly building.
Where, when you are building and you're working in these broadcasts, and you then can reflect on broadcasts or pieces of production that you're working on, do you find yourself pinpointing the area where you are your harshest critic?
I mean, I can say that I enjoy when things don't go well and trying to figure out how to get past that point. But I mean, when things don't go well, that's what sticks with you. That's what sticks with me after a podcast. It's you can do 99 things right, and you do one thing wrong, or one thing didn't work out the way that you hoped it would or thought it would. That's the indelible memory of that, at least initially. And I think that, it's almost like a catch-22, because in live production, you can't dwell on stuff, because if you dwell on it, you're going to end up either repeating the mistake, or because you're focusing your energy on that, you're going to end up making another mistake down the road, and just exacerbating an existing problem and making it worse. At the same time, too, like the reflection after the fact. For me, I feel like beating myself up a little bit when things don't go well, or I could have executed this thing better. That also helps kind of my growth and my development for the next time out, even if the situation is not exactly identical, because in live broadcast it rarely is. Just you even though perfect is unattainable, you're always striving for it. So having things go wrong and beating myself up when they do is how I get better for the next time, so long as it doesn't bleed into what's happening now. That's the tough part.
Yeah. What's the closest to perfect in what that looks like for you?
Man, the things that make broadcasts that I work on, whether it's sports, whether it's esports, feel great, are things that I have zero control over. It's the roar of the crowd. It's seeing that pure, unadulterated emotion on the face of a competitor when they do something unexpected, or they achieve a goal that they've been building towards, and the ability to chronicle that. Like, that's what gives me goosebumps. That's what makes for those indelible memories of like a broadcast perfect. Like, if we can chronicle something that's happening on the pitch in soccer and basketball, on the court in basketball, whatever it is. But if the athletes on the floor, if the people in the crowd aren't helping to supplement the excitement of that moment, there's no way that we as broadcasters can convey that. We can't manufacture it. It has to be natural. And, some of my most memorable moments of doing shows are ones where the unexpected happens and you just have to react.
David Rockwell Saunders is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley at Chronicling Sports. Right now we're chronicling David Rockwell Saunders, and the unexpected is due to happen all the time when it, like you said, it comes to covering sports. When you look at your career, what has been a pleasant surprise that has been unexpected, but it has actually panned out well for you?
I think I've been pretty lucky, like a lot of people in this industry, to have the mentorship and people above you that see something in you that lead to an opportunity that maybe you weren't necessarily anticipating, or at least you weren't expecting kind of in that time. My first foray into like esports was not something I particularly expected. It happened really fast. It was covering a Street Fighter tournament in Seattle at like PAX West in 2016. And at that point in time, like, I had only directed in a studio maybe a handful of times, and now I'm in a truck in a convention space that's blank. How do we build this? How do we cover this with basically what staging is, what lighting is, and all that other kind of stuff. Thinking about it more literally building something from the ground up. That was a learning process, but also one like I was more ready for than I think I even gave myself credit for going into it. So yeah, I think for me, when it comes to opportunities, especially in our industry, you may not necessarily have the greatest of confidence in yourself, but no one is given an opportunity without somebody above you believing in your ability to execute. So it's just a matter of, when you get that opportunity, how do you maximize it? Knowing it's not going to be perfect, but how do you make sure that like you're not only doing justice to those who give you that opportunity, but also doing justice for yourself?
On that note, who has and is empowering you?
I mean, going back to kind of, we talked about Bay Area board shows. First director I ever worked with, Kevin Skillings, is like an institution up here. He's been basically had a hand, and I would say the starting of careers of a lot of the people that I work with up in the Bay, because he's their first director, on their first shows. Beyond that, like at Pac-12 Network, Will O'Toole, Kyle Reisling gave me my first chance to direct a linear broadcast. A close buddy of mine who I actually went to college with, Chris Seglio, was the first guy who gave me a shot at esports. And all of those folks are people who, like, I still, in the case of like Will, Kyle, Chris, are people that I interface with regularly, still work with regularly. Somebody like Kevin, like, we can fall out of touch for a few years, but there's always like connective tissue of like, I have so-and-so on my crew on a Saturday. You've had them on your crew before, kind of give me the scouting report. So yeah, it's those relationships are still there. And it's like super important for me to kind of maintain those.
What do all those aforementioned names see in you?
Ugh. I am not
a chance to brag about yourself.
Which is like, that's the last freaking thing I want to do.
For sure.
I don't know. Again, like it's almost like they see something. I don't need to necessarily define. I don't need to know what it is. They know what it is. And if I just get that chance, what do I do with it? Like, that's kind of what it comes down to for me. Like, again, this is a very long-winded way. As you've noticed, I'm a very long-winded person of just deflecting attention from myself. So that's just what I'm going to leave it right now.
Well, that's natural in a way because you're humble, and that's a great trait to have. And I do think that having you on, it's deserved because of what you do. And I think you do need a little bit of positive attention credit towards you that you've worked to. So just happy to be this little tiny part of your career that is burgeoning and growing, and being able to spotlight you. Seeing you direct that first game for Pac-12 Network, what was it like being David Rockwell Saunders when you got the call up?
One other name that I forgot to kind of mention, who really kind of helped me feel confident going into the first game, was a guy by the name of Mark Wolfson, a long-time director and producer, who I kind of really learned a lot from. My first game was my first crack at events were field sports, so it was soccer. The first game actually doesn't really stand out as much as the third game does. So if I can take a minute to talk about that, it was women's lacrosse from the University of Oregon. And I had previously on my first two games had very seasoned live game producers, people who could basically carry me and pick me up. Like if I wasn't doing something right, they could kind of like keep me honest there. The third game was kind of a buddy of mine, Justin Nelson, who was a studio producer by trade at Pac-12. Justin Waholtz now. And
oh, I know Justin. Yeah,
yeah,
I remember. Yeah.
And he was the producer of that broadcast, and we were on the air for probably about 15 minutes before Oregon experienced lightning strikes that postponed the game, and then a freak hailstorm that coated the entire field in white, stuff they don't get in Eugene at all. And I just remember sort of like, that was the first, hey, you can control a lot of things, but some things are completely out of your control, and that you can't control at all. But how do you kind of keep the momentum going? So, collegiate sports, there's a lightning strike, automatic 40-minute delay. Every successive lightning strike within, I forget if it's like a 5-mile radius to the venue, 40-minute clock restarts. And then we start to see the hail come in. And then it's like, is our equipment still in a good place? Did we anticipate that this would happen? We thought maybe rain. We didn't think that there would be like balls of ice falling from the sky. And then, no pun intended, we weathered the storm. And before we got back on the air, the players from the University of Oregon did us a solid and went out there with their crosses and literally were just using them as shovels to clear the lines on the field of play, making, like snow angels and all kinds of stuff. And that, like, for me is still going to stick out as probably like the earliest broadcast memory of like, okay, you can plan all you want and there are still going to be curveballs thrown at you. So be ready.
One of your colleagues who has had curveballs thrown her way and is such an inspirational figure, someone who I'm sure you've worked with, who I look up to, and many do, and she's on the network, is Tammy Blackburn and her story. Why is she one of your heroes?
I don't know if Tammy and I have ever had more than a hi hello over headset. A lot of the games that I do are from San Francisco and the talent's on site. So I don't know if we ever had a face to face, but I mean, her perseverance, her composition, disposition in the face of kind of what she's going through, in terms of, continuing to battle cancer is incredible. Like it's one of the things that I think moves the needle for me in sports is seeing people achieve things that I don't think I'm capable of. And I'm not talking about being able to windmill dunk or hit a ball 500 feet. It's stories like Tammy's, where it's, roadblock after roadblock after roadblock are put in front of you. And if you can still have a smile on your face, be warm, be inviting, be friendly, and passionate about what you're doing through all of that, I mean, that's incredible. Like, it's absolutely, it is true motivation, and something to kind of like aspire towards.
David, the way you said that was so beautiful. That was so heartfelt. And I think we can all, even if, like you said, we haven't gotten to speak with her face to face, we all feel a connection to her and we all are rooting for her. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so we all feel like a bond, even though maybe we haven't met her face to face, like you said, because we're all on team Tammy. I wanted to leave you with this. David Rockwell Saunders is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. What have you done as far as your career and looking at it as a whole that you still can't believe?
I mean, in college, I wanted to figure out a way to work in sports. I did that. That's incredible in itself. But I feel that like the delving into esports has been tremendous for me, because I've gotten a chance to work with big pieces of my childhood. I've done a lot of shows, like I was a kid who, like everybody else, it's like, hey, Nintendo 64 is out. Like, let's get 4 people together and let's play GoldenEye. Let's play Mario Kart. And I've gotten a chance in order to basically, for Nintendo, put some of their products on display, do competitive broadcasts for them. I get the, I did the Nintendo World Championships 2017, which was technically probably the toughest show I've had to do. But when you get the chance to basically be like, hey, why don't you play the Super Mario World theme song over this next graphics board? Like, that's incredible. That's the song that there are certain beats of childhood that I've somehow managed to be able to bring into adulthood in a working capacity. Wow. And it's kind of nuts.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding from start to finish. David Rockwell Saunders, I'm Bryan Fenley. David, thanks for doing this, man. I really enjoy your conversation. I think a lot of people are going to gain inspiration from your story, and your introspection was captivating and was moving, and really appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate you bringing me on, Bryan. And I hope the tree doesn't pigeonhole you in terms of timeliness. This has to get out the door by the 25th. Don't feel that kind of pressure. Just get it out when you need to.